What's up you guys, Mo Awesome from Awesome MTB and welcome to the Awesome MTB Trail Bike Buyer's Guide. What's up you guys, Mo Awesome from Awesome MTB and welcome back to the Awesome MTB Trail Bike Buyer's Guide. Over the last few months, we've been testing out 11 of the best trail bikes on the market. Now these are 29ers with 140 to 150 millimeters of travel. And even though there's 11 bikes in this test, we can say that each one of these bikes has a unique personality and we're here to make your next bike purchase a lot easier knowing you have all the information out there. Now in this video, we're going to be breaking down the Cannondale Habbit LT. If you guys watched our previous XC Buyer's Guide, you know we fell in love with the Cannondale Scalpel, so we were very excited to put some time on the Habbit. Now before we get into this video, we do want to give a huge thank you to Jensen USA for sponsoring this video. If you didn't know, Jensen USA is one of the largest online bike shops out there and they are awesome. They have so many bikes and parts in stock ready to ship to you with same-day shipping. Their prices are incredible and their customer service is second to none. They are rider owned and have been around for 30 years, so they know how important it is to not only get the best deals, but also keep the time off the bike to a minimum. So like I said, they offer same-day shipping and their customer service is backed by gear advisors to help make picking the right item or bike out very simple. And like I said, their prices are incredible. Some of the best deals in the industry, and I personally love playing around with their online bike builder because like I said, they have so many rad brands to choose from. The customization options are endless and we can't recommend Jensen USA enough. And like we said, you guys, Jensen is not only one of the biggest Cannondale dealers in the nation, but they also are amazing people and they have a really awesome website full of so many products and some of the best deals in the country. We're gonna link them in the description of this video, so yeah, definitely check them out and thank you, Jensen USA. So what is the Cannondale Habbit LT? So the Cannondale Habbit LT has 140 millimeters of rear travel, 150 millimeters of travel up front, and it's a very no-nonsense bike. If someone had the intention of making an amazing mountain bike as simple as possible, I feel like this is exactly what you would get. Now the bike that I've been testing is the Cannondale Habbit LT1. This is gonna be the longer travel Habbit offering. Front, we have 150 millimeters of travel with a RockShox Lyric Select Plus, and then we have 140 millimeters of rear travel with a RockShox Select Plus rear shock. For the drivetrain, we have a 1x12 mechanical GX drivetrain. For brakes, we have SRAM Code brakes. Up front, we have their own carbon handlebars as well as fabric grips. We have Cannondale's own down-low dropper post and once again a Fabrique saddle. For wheels, we have a WTB KOM wheel set with a DT Swiss 350 rear hub. A detail that I think is going to be really awesome for a lot of riders out there, and once again, we'll get to that later on. For tires, we have a Maxxis Minion DHF up front and we have a Dissector in the rear. And of course, you guys, we have our Crank Brothers Stamp 7 pedals in a size large. The weight is very respectable, coming in at about 32.8 pounds with pedals. And like I mentioned, if someone wanted to make a no-nonsense, simple mountain bike that was insane on the trails, I feel like the Habbit is exactly what you would get. Before I get into what I love and don't necessarily love about the Habbit, let's actually take this bike out on the trails and see how it rides. All right, guys, we have another on-trail bike review. Today, we have the Cannondale Habbit. This has probably been one of the bikes on the test that I feel like is the biggest sleeper. Now it's interesting, in this test, there's so many other bikes with so many bells and whistles, adjustments, flip chips. This is the simplest bike in the test. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing because I would say at its core, the Habbit has so much going right for it that it might not need those other things that might just kind of get you all confused through these tech sections, which I'm going to focus on a little bit more. So much control from the higher stack height up front, and you can tell Cannondale wanted to make an all mountain bike that performed well in a ton of conditions, not just Josh Bryceland's jibby nature, but things like moho rides, which is these everyday little chunky trails. And man, the Habbit makes quick work of them. Making our way back up, like I said, you guys, I think if the Habbit has taught me anything, it's that maybe you don't need all of those adjustments, because I feel like Cannondale really nailed the geo on this. you have size proportional chainstays, you have a really awesome feeling front end, and then I feel like the Goldilocks of head angles coming in right around 64.7, 0.9-ish, and overall just a very good performing all mountain trail bike. A little bit more technical climbing. Cannondale Habbit does so with ease. I feel like at its core, this is just a really good mountain bike, which is pretty rad. A little bit of high speed action for the Cannondale Habbit. There's an exact way that I would want to build this bike up. And man, I think there's so much that you could do with this bike. I love the simplicity of it, like I've said a couple of times now. I feel like this is just a really good bike, even through the chunk, very composed. I love the wheelbase. It does have a fairly longer reach, as well as, like I said, size proportional chainstays. So you have a lot of that stability. We're gonna control our line choice. Man, high stack height, so good. I think Cannondale realizes that. Little corners right here. Oh my God, so good. I feel like Cannondale might be one of the brands that, man, they're really starting to cater towards that everyday rider. Yes, you can race their bikes, but they want to make sure that you have fun on the trails. And I feel like you really do feel that with the Habbit. And sometimes simple is actually better. In the case of this bike, it's very good. Like I said, I'm gonna die here one day. This is getting so bad. All right, we've made it to the most technical part of this test, and this is car wreck trail. I feel like there's a few tweaks I would make to the stock build, but overall, this bike has been such a rowdy, fun time. I will say, very similar to the scalpel test, I am noticing that Cannondale bikes tend to be a little bit on the bigger side. Like, this feels like a proper extra large, which I love as a taller rider. And I think a lot of riders out there will also appreciate the stability. The part of the test that I really want to focus on to not lose any teeth. So much chunkiness. And coming through here, like I said, in terms of line control, man, the Habbit has such good rollover and such a precise line choice. However, as you guys can hear that sound, the code brakes, I feel like these 140 bikes are pushing to where code brakes are not sufficing. We'll talk about that later on. A little bit more climbing to get out of here. Light work for the Habbit. Let's get out of here and talk about how this bike did. All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed some of that riding footage. I'm gonna keep coming back to the word simple because I feel like that's gonna be the best way to describe the Cannondale Habbit. There's not a head angle adjust, there's not two different settings for the rear shock, but I honestly don't think this bike needs it. I feel like that's actually gonna be one of the things that I love about the Cannondale Habbit. The bike itself has a really awesome geometry. It has a fairly slack head angle coming in about 64.5 degrees up front, and you also have size proportional chainstay, so you get a lot of high-speed stability and a very active suspension design, so this bike tracks to the ground really well. But at the same time too, you're not left thinking, oh, should I have changed my head angle? Should I run the bike in the high setting instead of the low setting today? I do feel like for riders out there that might not necessarily like adjustments, or maybe they get overwhelmed by having too many adjustments, the fact that this bike has a geo that's so dialed right away, I feel like is gonna make a lot of riders' experience out on the trails a lot more enjoyable knowing they're not in the wrong setting. Another thing that I love about this bike is how it goes on technical descents. This bike has a lot of rollover, like I said, size proportional chainstays, a fairly slack front end, and a very active plush suspension design. And I do feel like this bike tracks really well, especially when stuff gets chunky and technical. Now, at the same time too, it still has a good pop in and out of corners, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much speed I was able to come out of corners, even with the alloy wheel set. Another thing that I love about this bike is the front end stack height. This bike does have a slightly higher stack height. I can really picture myself riding this bike in places like Moab, in the desert. I feel like the front end has so much precision even with that slacker head angle. I feel like certain bikes, when they have lower stack heights and a little bit of a slacker head angle, you lose a lot of that responsiveness from the front end. However, this bike having a little bit of a slacker head angle but still retaining a slightly higher stack height gives you a lot of control from the front end of the bike, and I feel like this bike would do amazing in desert terrain and any area that has prolonged steep technical sections. And another thing that I absolutely love is that price point. Once again, you guys, this is an amazing bang for buck, and the fact that Cannondale really thought about these small details, like that DT Swiss 350 rear hub. That rear hub is very reliable, and you can also upgrade the ratchets to have more points of engagement, and at the same time, it's gonna last you for years to come. Nice to see Cannondale thinking about these small details while trying to retain an affordable price point. Now let's talk about some things I didn't necessarily love about the Cannondale Habbit. The first thing is it's not necessarily the most efficient when it comes time for climbing. I do think that the seated pedaling position is very comfortable, but at the same time, it is a slightly more active suspension design than some other bikes in this test. So if you're a rider out there that finds yourself constantly out of the saddle sprinting, you might find yourself reaching for that rear shock a little bit more often than other bikes. But that is going to be also a pro for more technical style climbs. This thing definitely has traction, but that is something to note. The initial stroke is a little bit more active on the Cannondale Habbit. Another thing that I didn't necessarily love about the Cannondale Habbit is, I mean, this is kind of like a double-edged sword. Even though it's nice to know that you're not in the wrong position because there's not many positions to be in, it would be nice to have a little bit more adjustability when it comes time for the actual geo, especially if you're a tinker. I feel like I am slightly a tinker. I like having different like chainstay length adjustments or different geo positions to be in. It would be nice to fine-tune this a little bit more so, especially with all of the travels we do. But at the same time too, I did appreciate the simplicity of the geo, especially because I do feel like they nailed the geo. So yeah, once again, that is a double-edged sword. It would be nice to see some adjustability, and if you're a rider out there that appreciates that, you might want to look at some other bikes in this test. Other than that, there's not too much that I didn't love about the Cannondale Habbit. We're 2 for 2 now with Cannondale bikes. First it was the Scalpel we loved, now the Cannondale Habbit LT we also loved. And yeah, it's really awesome to see a bike that's so iconic in the mountain bike world still putting out amazing bikes out there. In terms of the actual build, obviously there's going to be some things that I would probably change if this was my personal bike. I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of these stock carbon bars. I feel like I would put some one-up bars up here. The stopping power, I feel like it does need a little bit more stopping power, especially with how capable this thing is on steep technical terrain. So it would be nice to see some Mavens on here. I do feel like this bike would also benefit from some carbon wheels. Like I said, it's a little bit more of an active suspension design. I feel like you can balance off some of that with some carbon wheels, and then you can get the best of both worlds. A really efficient climber that feels nice and light, but at the same time retain that very active, capable suspension design. So to summarize, who do I think the Cannondale Habbit is for? I feel like this is gonna be one of those bikes for that rider that wants a no-nonsense, great mountain bike that's very simple, but at the same time too, also capable as well. I feel like this is a bike that's gonna continuously blow you away, not only in how quiet it is out on the trails, because it was also one of the more quiet bikes in the test, but also how capable it is on the descents. Now, if you're a rider out there that wants a little bit more adjustability in your bikes, or maybe you prioritize pedaling efficiency, you want something that's gonna be fast out of the gate, out of the saddle, I do think some other bikes in the test might be a little bit more well-suited for you. However, for that rider that wants that no-nonsense, very capable, do-everything mountain bike, I think the Cannondale Habbit is gonna be an amazing bike for a ton of riders out there. I was truly impressed by the geo. I feel like the numbers are perfect, and I wanna spend more time on this bike, especially with a build that I have in mind. So who knows? Stay tuned for a future video. Now, how does this bike compare to some other bikes in this test? You guys are gonna have to stay tuned to the conclusion of this video series. If you have a question about the Cannondale Habbit that we didn't talk about in this video, let us know in the comment section. We'll get back to you. Be sure to subscribe to not miss out on any more content. And until next time, you guys, ride awesome. You.